Mothman.
Hi-yo! Excuse me.
Clown Baby and I watched the newest documentary about the Mothman of Point Pleasant, put out by Small Town Monsters, who we had that director and I think writer on the show a few months ago when he was actually, was he just finishing raising money for the movie?
Yeah, that was correct.
And I mistakenly invited him on the show because I don't know how to read Kickstarter, suggesting that he needed a few more $1,000, and but he far exceeded what he needed, so he just kind of came on the show to bullshit with us anyways because he's a good guy.
I think after our show, he got like an extra like $3,500. So hopefully we contributed to some of that. I mean, he already he has a Mothman coming out now. Well, it just came out. It just got released and premiered. But he has the Invasion at Chestnut Ridge coming out. So there was a two-parter that's coming out this fall.
Yeah. And I watched the Mothman documentary. The newest one's out. I'll post a link in the description. Very well done. It was filmed very well. I tweeted to the guy because I was actually quite enthusiastic about this, that it was a very well crafted and researched documentary about Mothman. It went into some history. It had various interviews with people who came in contact with the various paranormal encounters, be it Mothman or alien encounters. It was very well put together. It was about an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah. I guess I was actually kind of left wanting a little bit more. I actually was kind of left wanting some conclusions. There were no conclusions really drawn from this. So you want to kind of
start from the beginning, like just explain the Mothman background for any new listeners and for me who needs a refresher, because I think I've just seen the Kevin Costner movie.
Yeah, well, I can play some clips that I procured, cultivated from this, and this might set it up a little bit about what the origins of the Mothman, or even just Point Pleasant in West Virginia, is about. And this goes a little deep, but
it's narrated by Kevin Costner.
That's not true at all. That's actually just a blatant lie. But
just made that up.
Yeah, we'll carry on, and here is the first little clip from the Mothman documentary.
Chief Cornstalk, was a Shawnee chief.
Wait. Time out.
What?
Chief Cornstalk?
Yeah.
Yeah, they go back. They go back to colonial times when the settlers were coming in and chasing Native Americans out of West Virginia. So it goes pretty far back.
Yeah, you actually just kind of have to listen to it, and then
what a name. Sorry, that's just a crazy name. I've never heard anything like it.
Chief Cornstalk. Yeah.
That's my nickname.
Yeah, it's not. He's not like the chief of police. He's not like Chief Cornstalk.
Yeah,
this is like
Boss Hog.
This is like a Native American, not like Chief Hot Dog or something like that. This is
Captain Hot Dog here.
Yeah, this is a Native American. Okay,
gotcha.
So why don't you show her a little respect, please?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Culturally insensitive.
I'm going to continue with this clip.
Chief Cornstalk, was a Shawnee chief who was reportedly murdered by some settlers over a land dispute, him and his son both. The legend is told that upon his dying breath that he cursed, the town of Point Pleasant for 200 years. But I think that, all towns have their share of problems and tragedies and things like that.
First time it was heard of was in a play in the early 1900s.
We found when they tore down a local grade school here about 6 years ago, we found a closet they didn't know about. We found a play from 1923 that the entire town put on their history. And in that play, one of the big scenes is Cornstalk getting shot and cursing Point Pleasant.
So that's kind of an older kind of history of what's going on in Point Pleasant. Like there's an urban legend or a rural legend there, right there in this town. And it's a smaller town, so people talk. And it's very easy for legends to get built out of gossip, possibly. I'm not saying that is what this is, but even in the town that Jeff and I grew up in, there is a a place that was a supposed supernatural place called Rogue's Hollow, where we would go, where there's various tales of ghosts or creatures. Crybaby Bridge, Devil's Triangle, and we would go back there all the time. And as teenagers, we're a little bit more open to the idea. We'd be out there all the time and try to, fuck with each other. And so you can only imagine, in small towns, stories like that do go around. And so the more stories you hear, the more it becomes real. So I don't know if that plays into it at all. Granted, there's a lot more interesting sightings that are happening here in the 1960s at Point Pleasant than happened where Jeff and I grew up. But that mentality might still exist, where there's the townsfolk talking amongst each other. Oh, my God, Chief Cornstalk cursed this town, and that explains all the misfortune that will befall us.
Yes. Wait, Haiti. Didn't the 700 Pat Roberts talk about Haiti's earthquake was a result of them being devil worshippers or whatever?
Exactly. It happens all the time. I mean, you can find God's wrath in anything you want. I mean, I'm sure Pat Robertson said, the gays are being killed by AIDS because of God.
Oh, yeah. He's got to have that on record multiple times.
Yeah, so, you can say it, and whether it's an Indian chief cursing the town. Now, granted, that might have a little bit more impact. If you're a bunch of settlers and you just shot an Indian chief and his dying breath is, I curse you, that might affect me. I probably wouldn't like that one bit. In fact, I'd rather kill somebody fast enough so they couldn't curse me. Hopefully.
Shoot him right in the head.
Yeah, shoot him in the head, or at least choke him so they can't talk, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's the trick.
You got to prevent those spells.
Hold their hand so they can't spell it out in the air either. Don't you curse me.
No sign language. Don't mouth anything. No cursing. Haven't you learned anything from killing shaman? Jesus Christ.
Right.
Never give a shaman a dying breath. So this next clip kind of goes into some early sightings of the Mothman and or Birdman and what people have witnessed and possibly some occurrences around those.
Now, the good part is they interview original witnesses from when the incident actually occurred.
Mm-hmm. They go into some pretty interesting stuff, no doubt. Now, Joe, before I play this clip, what exactly do you know about the Mothman sightings or anything like that? I mean, you don't follow this, so what do you know?
I know. I just remember that bridge scene with Kevin Costner from the movie. I remember the moth on the cover of the movie. I don't remember a whole lot about it other than it was like paranormal. That's about it. So the backgrounder stuff that you're getting is really good because I just don't know anything about it.
Okay.
I don't know if it's actually like a moth. Like, is it a giant flying moth type creature? I don't know if it's like they just call him that because he's like maybe covered in dust or something. I don't know.
Well, hopefully this...
Does he hang around lights, banging around against light posts and shit?
Not to my knowledge.
Not that.
No, I don't know about that specifically, but I don't think it's that kind of moth. I don't think it's a literal Mothman. It's just a name.
Okay.
Kind of like Batman.
I like the idea of a Mothman, though, who's just kind of like bumping into the, storefronts at night.
That's a bit goofy, but I'm with you. All right, here's the second clip here.
Scary.
During the early part of the 20th century, with frequent disasters befalling Point Pleasant, rumors about a bizarre Birdman began to circulate. The most startling fact about these Birdman stories is that they occurred over 50 years prior to the Mothman encounters of the 1960s. Professor James Gay Jones of Glenville State College documented multiple sightings of the Birdman in his book, Haunted Valley and More Folk Tales of Appalachia. The sightings began around 1914, with the creature being described as a large bird with the head of a man and a wingspread of at least a dozen feet. It was said to be of monstrous size and was covered in dark, reddish feathers that glistened in the sunlight. According to Jones, sightings of the Birdman persisted well into the 1940s, where it was reported by motorists who drove along the Ohio River just outside of Point Pleasant. These encounters were also said to be a prelude or epilogue to a tragic occurrence.
So that's kind of a down low on how the sightings of the Mothman preluded horrible events, or you saw the Mothman after a horrible event, be it a flood, a bridge collapsing, or something like that. But they saw it as a bad omen. And there's various witness testimony about encountering this Mothman. A lot of them, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the witnesses were people driving on the road and seeing something overhead, and how the Mothman was actually kind of following along with the car, hovering over top, and almost dive bombing at time, and kind of almost testing the car and its reaction as if it were prey.
Not really dive bomb. More, it would do with a lot of the sightings. It would keep pace next to the car. No matter how fast they would go, it would always keep pace and kind of looking at them.
Yeah, there were reports like some of the guys were going, like 90 to 100 miles an hour, and this thing was keeping pace. There's also various witness accounts of walking and accidentally coming upon the Mothman, and this thing taking off straight up vertically as if it were a helicopter. Bizarre things like that. And this thing flying and maneuvering in ways where it could be viewed like a bird, but also vertical takeoff is not something you typically see with a bird. So bizarre kind of weird things like that. Definitely what they do report is a large creature with at least a 10-foot wingspan. So that's a big motherfucking bird, Joe.
That sounds pretty big. I wonder if you would probably want to drink that with a white wine if you were able to catch it and get that thing in the oven. Sounds like it could be good.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, why not baste it with a little
roasted?
Yeah,
you definitely want to lock in those flavors.
Yeah,
you're looking for like Turkey Man.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to tell you, wake me up when we get to Turkey Man and he's almost finished.
Or Lobster Man.
Lobster Man, Pig Man. Let's get Guy Fieri down here and open up a new restaurant.
Guy Fieri, welcome to Crypto Town.
We're going to go hunt the Mothman and baste it.
I like that. The crypto buffet. And you could have Mothman cutlets or Bigfoot cutlets and Mothman drumsticks and stuff like that.
Well, in this documentary, they talk about people were very concerned, and word spread, and people did come in with guns and rifles willing to hunt this Mothman, and they're like, well, if we shoot it, we get to keep it, and can we kill two? And, they were up in arms. They wanted this thing dead at any and all costs. They were.
Well, I think that was the police that were talking about that. If we find it, can we kill it? And if there's two, can we shoot both of them or something?
Yeah.
They weren't sure if it was a new species or whatever the hell it was, if it was aliens.
Well, it's not unlike the Bigfoot story with that new Bigfoot story is Killing Bigfoot, where it is legal to kill a Bigfoot. Or they outlawed it in Louisiana.
It was I think it was. I don't know if it was up for debate in Louisiana or it's legally ambiguous, but in Oklahoma, it's legal.
Yeah, go to Oklahoma if you want to kill cryptids. It's fair game out there.
You can start a restaurant and work on a business plan now. You can do this.
Yeah,
dream big.
Dream big. Kill many Bigfoot and Mothman.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
in science and flavor
and culinary arts.
Mm-hmm.
In this next clip, this is where it gets a little strange, where the cryptoid kind of world of Mothman intersects with paranormal alien encounters. Here we go, Joe. Hold on to your butts.
Will do.
The Mothman incidents weren't the only unusual events taking place in West Virginia during 1966. On November 2nd, a man named Woodrow Derenberger is accosted on Highway 77 while driving home from Parkersburg, West Virginia. His antagonist is the occupant of an unidentified flying object which lands on the road in front of him. The being speaks to Derenberger telepathically, referring to himself as Indrid Cold. Much like the Mothman stories would just 2 weeks later, Indrid Cold draws national media attention as Derenberger calmly and matter-of-factly relays the details of his encounter to reporters. Today, it stands as one of the most fascinating UFO stories on record. Also on November 2nd in nearby Gallipolis, Ohio, A woman is outside when she sees a bright flash in the sky above her. She looks up in time to see a massive cylinder-shaped object appear in a downward trajectory. The object lands in a parking lot, and two plain-dressed men exit the craft and proceed to ask her a series of questions in a bizarre dialect. At the same time, two men traveling on Highway 77 near Parkersburg, in the same vicinity as Woodrow Derenberger, have their own brush with a man who sounds suspiciously like Indrid Cold, or as they referred to him, the Grinning Man.
So pretty bizarre shit. Men in Black. You have flying Mothman creatures and people encountering these people in real life. So this Indrid Cold guy. There's a lot of information out there. So in that clip, the person who encountered Indrid Cold, the Men in Black, said he had a story to tell. So what the fuck was his story? Well, according to some reports, that Indrid Cold, this Man in Black, came from a planet named Lanuo in the Germedes galaxy, and that there were two other grinning men with him by the name of Demo Hassan and Carl Ardo. Can you believe that? So these Men in Black that we see pop up at UFO events are actually aliens themselves coming down here.
I mean, this goes with the Bigfoot stuff we talked about, with them being sort of the sentries that they kind of send down. Wasn't that the theory from one of the accounts that we were looking into?
That's one of, like, I read that in the Pennsylvania sightings book that I left at your house, Clown Baby. Is that I think his name is, I forget, Stan Gordon, that he has run in, at least in Pennsylvania, has run into many different sightings where not only there's a Bigfoot around, but there's a UFO around, almost as if these cryptids, these Bigfoot, or even Mothman, are possibly scouts. That's the conclusion I came to, that they're boots on the ground. Maybe these Mothmen are wings in the air. Who knows?
And what if, I mean, just to get crazy with it, what if they're like actually harvesting critters? Like you look at like the Star Wars cantina. I know it's a stupid example, but you have all these wacky looking critters. And if you're coming from galaxies where you can go into hyperspace, and we believe the alien technology is so far advanced that you literally could traverse galaxies, you know, in the time it would take us to go down to the gas station, then they could be just picking up, you know, it'd be like picking up like feral dogs in Mexico, you know, and then going out to going over to Sweden and setting them loose and just seeing what happens.
I think that's as valid theory as any. If you're going to do a genetic experimentation, you're going to have to set it loose in the wild and see what happens. A lot of these, the Mothman reports and sightings happen around an abandoned munitions factory and a TNT plant. And it's this kind of weird. There's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of reports that there is a creature out there. And these people who are reporting it firmly believe what they see, especially with this Men in Black encounter with Ingrid Cole and some other guys. There's a couple different, 3-4 different sightings, all relating back to this guy, all kind of similar features, and acting in a very peculiar way. I don't think your genetic experimentation is too far off. Why not? I mean, if you have the ability and you make a creature, why not set it loose? Whether it is the U.S. military doing it or an alien civilization, what does it matter at that point? The U.S. military is probably going to keep it confined, but ultimately they're going to want to use it as a weapon and see what happens. So they're going to want to turn it loose in some way. So why not let it loose on your own population? And especially if you're an alien civilization, what do you care about a bunch of humans? Put it in West Virginia.
Especially in West Virginia. You think about like some of the dumb shit we talked about on the show before that the United States military wanted to do. Like, let's put a nuke on the moon. You know, let's blow up the moon. It's like, let's just see what happens. You know, who's to say the aliens aren't like, fuck it, it's a bunch of dumb bastards who are arguing about over who's more racist than the other. Let's just send some of those Bigfoot that we picked up on, whatever planet. See what happens. Fuck with them.
Drop them down there. If nothing happens, great. If they happen to take over a town and rise up, great. You know,
I'm not sure. How many other clips did you have? Do you have the one where it covers John Keel coming down to investigate some of this stuff?
I did not. I have two more clips. One is an actual eyewitness encounter of the Mothman, and then another one about the Mothman Fest. I didn't want to play too much. I mean, there is an entire documentary out there. I highly recommend people buy it. It is worth your time. It's very intriguing. You'll learn a lot about this if you're new to like the Bigfoot and Mothman and all these kind of crazy stories. This is actually a nice kind of intro to it. It's very well done. So I'll play just two more clips here, and then we can move on. This one is a story about a man encountering Mothman.
There were various reports of the Mothman sightings of being of a supernatural nature, almost a mental type vision of whatever this thing was.
I lived up on Jefferson Avenue. Of course, my wife and I, and we were about 19 years old, I think, at the time. We went to bed that night. The way the bed was, there was a window on my left, and sometime in the night, and it seems to me like it was about 3 o'clock, and I was facing that window, and I looked out the window and looked down at the street light, and there was a crossing. I remember distinctly there was a car come across the crossing, and I turned my head to the right. I mean, I can still feel that, really. Turned my head to the right, and there, to me, it was the devil, Mothman, standing there by my bed, and I just sort of froze up, and I tried to talk, and I couldn't. It was this awful, horrible feeling. And I thought, Lord, what can I do? This thing is here. It must be this evil presence. And it was standing there, and it had a body about 6 feet tall, sort of a dirty lunar color. And I didn't see any buttons or zippers or anything like that, but it was a gray form, like a solid robe, and then without seams down the arm. Then the hands were down, or whatever those were on the other end. They kind of disappeared by the bedside. I didn't see that. And red eyes, and kind of back in like, but it was its presence. Here I am. I feel that. It was this evil, 100% evil. So
I will cut it right there. It's
okay.
Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. He calls it a demon. I mean, that's in his opinion. This guy called it a demon and then said the Lord's Prayer, and this thing kind of faded away. And I've read that kind of account many times where people who encounter, whether it's a gray alien or some kind of weird ghost or deity or something like that, they'll say the Lord's Prayer and this thing will go away, as if invoking Jesus Christ has some kind of special power.
Please.
Hey, man, I'm just reporting what I hear and read.
All of the, alien creatures and cryptids, they all understand the power of Christ, and
it compels you.
Mm-hmm.
Not unless they're all the same thing.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, hey, I don't know.
No, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if aliens come down to this planet, or if Bigfoot comes around and is like he's scared off because of Jesus. I mean, Dracula, I can understand because he is of this earth, and I think he is demonic, arguably.
Absolutely.
But aliens, how could they give a damn?
I have one final clip here, and here we go.
The Mothman Festival came about back in 2003 as a way to capitalize a little bit on the movie, the Mothman Prophecies, and, get some people to come downtown, help out the merchants and the downtown stores and things like that. And 15 years later, it's grown to be one of the biggest festivals in the state of West Virginia. We draw crowds of 10,000 plus now every September.
There are a lot of people that like the festival, and they like the Mothman Museum. Now, there's a few in the community, there are a few skeptics.
I hope he doesn't come back. I don't want to see him. If he wants royalties, we're in trouble.
Oh.
Jeez.
If you want
That's what it's all about, though, right? Isn't it?
The festival and commerce down there?
That seems to be right. Like, isn't Roswell like a giant UFO tourism place, too?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
They got their tourism locked down. They have festivals. They have all that kind of stuff. So it makes good business sense for them to be involved and perpetuate the legend and sightings and stories. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
you should actually come up with some stories, get some witnesses who saw Bigfoot or Mothman smoking a joint, and then they can legalize weed and have a cryptid festival and do like Colorado, but then with a multiplier.
Yeah. Hey, girls, I got a ghost in my bed. Come check it out.
My bed's haunted.
I got a haunted bed. I need help. We're going to have to bounce on it repeatedly to get that ghost out of there.
And bring beer, too. He drank all my beer.
A ghost drank my beer.
Well, the Mothman Festival is September 16th and 17th in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
I don't know.
Y'all ought to go. That's right up in your neighborhood. You could all drive there.
Relatively.
It is.
Saturday and Sunday. We could go down Friday and hit it up Saturday, leave Sunday.
We can go bar hopping and get kicked out of the festival.
Yeah. That's actually a good idea. Bring the recorder.
Yeah. Let's get arrested.
There's TNT area bus tours.
All right, TNT, let's do it. Let's blow some shit up over there. We're gonna go hunting for Mothman.
Do bong rips and hunt cryptids.
Yeah, bong rips for Mothman. Come on, I gotta smoke that bro down, man. Come on, Mothman. I'm gonna do a little ecstasy with Mothman, see what happens.
Get a little crazy.
Do some bath salts.
Well, there's attractions, events, there's vendors. Oh, there's cosplay too. Good God. Guest speakers, live bands, bus tour.
Live bands. What kind of bands they got playing there? Slayer playing?
Let me check it out.
Yeah, let's check. I wonder if I can book Battle Axe there.
They're not.
Not any major Aerosmith's not playing?
They're not listing anything right now.
It can't be that good. It'd be great if like the Rolling Stones like booked a show there.
Rolling Stones
playing the Mothman
Slayer,
Festival.
Madonna.
Yeah, Madonna's playing Mothman. What kind of cosplay is it? Can I just come there dressed as like Star Trek or something? Does it matter?
I saw someone in Ghostbusters.
Great.
You just go as let's be the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there is Star Wars. I see people in Star Wars right now, so
Okay.
they just pretty much cosplay anything.
So it's a non-denominational cosplay. We don't have to come dressed up as like Bigfoot or Wolfman or Mothman.
Actually, we just go as Nazis.
Yeah, well, this is Jesus Christ.
West Virginia Nazis.
There you go. Not too far off. Pretty close. So, what, Joe? To wind this segment up about Mothman, what do you think's going on as the cryptoid skeptic here? What do you think?
I just want to know what he tastes like with buffalo sauce, or do you want to roast this thing? Like, is it an herb thing? What do you do when you find it? He say he's like a bird man, so I'm willing to take that chance. If people will eat crickets and ants and these kinds of things, and I think it's worthwhile like tracking this fucker down and then doing like you say. You got to baste it, you got to lock in those flavors, and let's see what happens. I mean, for science.
I like to eat
and for dinner.
Exactly.
I like to eat.
One of those.
Joe, you're breaking up a lot. I don't know. Jeff, Jeff, do you hear that?
Yeah, he just kind of drops off.
Yeah, he kind of drops for like a few seconds and then pops back up. I'm not sure what's going on, but we'll hang with it. Maybe it'll clear up. But this is the exact same thing I experienced last week.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll just deal with it.
Does your ISP throttle you?
Joe should have amazing ISP down there in Austin.
I don't know. They're very for the same price.
Yeah, you're like
probably it's absolutely the same.
Yeah, you're not finishing your sentences. It's like, and sometimes I would like to watch the movie, but sometimes when my favorite actor is Tom Cruise.
Should I change my preference? Should I change my Skype preferences with the? Don't they have that one preference where you sort of auto?
Yeah, you can try that. Sure, you can try to auto it and see if that does anything.
I don't think you're falling off because of a microphone, though. Let's
not rule out variables. Every variable is true at this point. Let's just
all right. Let's start out with aliens.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hope that nothing gets cut off here, and just say that I think you ended it well with the money making scheme, because I think people want attention. I mean, we live in victimhood culture. Obviously, attention is a good thing. Especially, it's like, oh, you poor Muslims, you know.
How are you relating this to fucking politics? This is mind blowing.
Saying it's
just got done with Mothman.
I know, but I do think it relates. Where it's just like we want attention, and so it's like first it starts with like, oh, I got abducted, or my kid got abducted, or I saw a Bigfoot and it scared me, or it ate my dog, or something, and you get attention, and that sort of starts like what Mike was saying with the small town gossip thing. And geez, Jeff, could you fucking rage a little harder?
Yeah, rage, Jeff.
Everybody likes attention, negative or positive, and if you can turn it into a money making scheme like Roswell has obviously done, like I mentioned with Colorado with the weed tourism, that's what I'm saying is like just combine the two and say, you know, Bigfoot is a giant fucking Rastafarian. He's not, you know, he's got dreads, actually. That's why he looks as hairy and crazy as he does, because he's actually smoking weed. He is the king of Rasta. And then, you know, turn this all into a festival, legalize weed, and then make a whole thing of it. Because that's what, I mean, if there's a whole festival around Mothman, why the hell not?
I can buy that, but just because there's a festival around it doesn't negate that people actually saw something real. You're walking a fine line there. And I know people want to capitalize off of everything. And just because Hollywood makes movies about aliens doesn't mean aliens do not exist. But I get your point. I don't know if I agree with how you apply it to politics. Maybe glossed over that a little bit, but I'll let that go. I'll have to listen back on playback. You probably made a very valid point that I just didn't listen to. Or did you?
I just said everybody likes attention.
Attention, sure.
Negative or positive. But I would love to see, I think ultimately, I go back to something you always say. If you have a cell phone like everybody fucking does, and you saw Bigfoot, where the fuck is the footage?
There's not a lot of it out there. Not a lot of convincing footage out there. That's for damn sure. All right, let's move on a little bit. I'm going to talk about some things.
Hey now. Are you interested in gay porno?